All right, guys, today we're talking about yet another comparison for a multi-plat, I guess we could say AAA title, running on both the PS5 and the Xbox Series X, and how apparently, once again, the PS5 comes out on top, which is very surprising at this point, considering it's becoming a trend. And so I want to take some time to talk about that and just kind of talk about whether or not it's starting to look like the PS5 is actually going to be the more performant console going forward, which, again, not really the general expectation that was set going into this current generation. And yes, now I can call it the current generation, which is nice. So we're going to talk about that. We're also talking about how Sony has confirmed that VRR functionality will be coming in a future system update, which a lot of people are very happy to hear that. And finally, we're going over some more comments that Sony recently made about the future of the PlayStation 5 and how they seem to hint at how long this generation is going to last for them. And honestly, it's not too surprising, but it might actually be a little bit shorter than some people were expecting. So we're going to go over that as well. If you could do me a favor, hit the like button to help the video out, hit the subscribe button if you're new, and hit the bell notification icon as well. But the game that we are talking about is Dirt 5, because Digital Foundry released yet another direct comparison video. And I would say unsurprisingly at this point, but I still think it's kind of surprising, the PS5 is the better performing version and the better looking version. Now, when it comes to performance, the PS5 isn't necessarily outperforming the Series X in a meaningful way. They seem to be kind of on par in that area. However, when it comes to visual fidelity and graphical quality, pixel counts, the PS5 seems to have a significant edge. Now, I do want to let you know before playing this clip from Digital Foundry, because it is being taken out of context, so I will give you some context. Digital Foundry, they are a little bit confused as to why this is the case. They did not expect this. They do say, and this is their best guess, that it could be a bug. It could be something along those lines that's causing the major visual difference between the Series X version and the PS5 version of Dirt 5, but they don't know for sure. And Richard Ledbetter does also say that regardless of that, whether that ends up being the reasoning, this is the retail code, right? The game is out. And so I'm going to talk more about that in a second. Listen to what Digital Foundry has to say when comparing Dirt 5 on the PS5 and Xbox Series X.
The detail level on PS5 is significantly higher than on both Xbox systems. Basically, it looks like the PS5 version is just using the same detail settings from resolution mode, whereas the Xbox systems are using a mode where the car LODs take a significant hit, like during the introduction scene. Even if you're just on a time trial with one car, you can see here, it's missing a lot of detail on the car. The road tessellation, or the detail on the road, that's completely gone. So all the little pebbles and geometric detail, that's missing. The grass is pared way back. There's also a reduction in overall geometry in the environment, and of course texture filtering is much lower quality. And again, so this one targets 60 frames per second, and both Xbox Series X and PS5 deliver just that most of the time. But as you can see from the graph, during these initial sections when all the cars are clumped together, there is some slowdown. On this track, the PS5 has an ever so slight advantage. When looking at these side by sides, the first thing I did notice is actually, for some reason, the PS5 version gets slightly better texture filtering. So that seems to be different between them. And also, in these side by sides during the introductions for races, the average resolution is a little bit higher on PS5. Again, it's a very strange thing. I'm not sure what's going on there, but that's what the data is showing us. Okay, so that's what we have now. So that's image quality mode. It's good on all platforms, but there are some very odd differences there.
Now, these results are obviously interesting because, yet again, the PS5 is coming out on top, and it seems to be a little bit more significant this time when it comes to the visual quality. Again, it could be a bug, but I don't think that's relevant. I told you guys I was going to be covering this. I told you what my expectation was, and I don't mean to keep going on and on about it, but let's be honest right now. These are the things that people are interested in, as they should be. People want to know if they're going to spend $500 on a next generation console, which one is going to give them the best bang for their buck. And I already told you guys many times in the past that the PlayStation, you know, with what it's offering games wise, in my opinion, is already giving you more bang for your buck. But now that we're starting to see a trend, and that trend is the PS5 is also the more performant console, and it actually runs multi-platform games better and they look better, sometimes slightly, sometimes not so slightly. That's a big deal. And that's going to matter to a lot of people, especially if this trend continues. Now, Digital Foundry does say that these are the early days. All of these games, they're games that are being developed in a turbulent time, and there's multiple platforms that they have to worry about. So all of this stuff is understandable. It doesn't necessarily mean that this is going to remain the trend, but in my opinion, that's neither here nor there. The point is, the fact is, this is the trend that is currently being established. These are retail games, the consoles are out, and we are seeing the final results. Now, it's going to continue to go on for many years, and I suspect, as I said in my last video talking about this, that things will get better for Xbox. But a lot of these Xbox guys, as I've said, they continue to make excuses. It's the dev tools, it's the development environment, it's the developers themselves. In fact, I think it was a Dirt 5 developer, ironically enough, that kind of shot down the rumor that apparently the Xbox Series X dev tools, its development tools, are not mature enough.
Even Richard Ledbetter of Digital Foundry, and he was perplexed by it, and he hinted at possible shortcomings with dev tools. He said maybe there's API limitations, because he said it wasn't the CPU, any bottlenecks with the hardware. Is it? Do you think that's the case? Are Microsoft's tools a little bit further behind than Sony's? I think that's been said by a few devs.
I mean, I wouldn't say that.
It could be the development environment itself, not necessarily a maturation issue with the dev tools, right? They're two, in my opinion, they seem like they'd be two different things. But again, it's not even really worth getting too deep into that, because that's not what matters right now. It's just not. If you're an Xbox fan and you bought a Series X mainly because you were under the impression, understandably so, that you were going to be getting the better looking and better running multiplats. I mean, how many times have we heard it? I'm going to get the Series X because I want the best performing multiplats on console, the best looking multiplats on console. And look at the trend that's being established. It's really difficult for me not to continue to go on and on about this, because I've been hearing it for literally over a year. And I told you guys that I was going to be covering it and I was going to be following it, because I want to see what the trend is going to be out of the gate. Is it going to be these games look mostly the same? And to be fair, to some extent they do. But is the Series X going to have the better performing games, the better looking games, right? Or is the trend somehow going to be the PS5 is the more performant, better looking console when it comes to multiplats? And that's the trend that's being established. So, at this point, my only recommendation to Xbox fans, those who care about the multiplat experience, you need to voice your concern to Microsoft. You need to get them to respond to this, because in my opinion, this is unacceptable. When you listen to marketing for like a year straight about the world's most powerful console, the most powerful Xbox ever made, games are going to look and run best on X, X is going to give it to you, it goes on and on, you should be pretty upset. And if I were an Xbox fan right now, and that's why I bought the console, I'd be fuming. I really would be. I'd be like, are you kidding me? Like, I went out there and bought a Series X when I could have probably gotten a PS5, because I was expecting to get the better looking, better running multiplats, and the other console. Yeah. Mark Cerny tried to warn them when he said that it's dangerous to rely on the teraflop when it comes to game performance. So
if you just calculate teraflops, you get the same number.
But actually, the performance is noticeably different because teraflops is defined as the computational capability of the vector ALU. That's just one part of the GPU. There are a lot of other units. And those other units all run faster when the GPU frequency is higher. At 33% higher frequency, rasterization goes 33% faster. Processing the command buffer goes that much faster. The L2 and other caches have that much higher bandwidth. Also, it's easier to fully use 36 CUs in parallel than it is to fully use 48 CUs. When triangles are small, it's much harder to fill all those CUs with useful work. So there's a lot to be said for faster, assuming you can handle the resulting power and heat issues.
Anyway, moving on from that, I just want to let you guys know that Sony has confirmed that VRR functionality is coming in a future update. PS5 will support variable rate shading. That's what VRR stands for in a future PS5 system update. Sony has confirmed via an update on the PlayStation 5 system FAQ. After a future system software update, PS5 owners will be able to use the VRR feature with compatible TVs when playing games that support VRR. So again, that's a big deal for a lot of people because that's going to prevent any type of screen tearing. Having that variable refresh rate, it basically just makes it so that you're looking at a smoother picture, right, in general. So that's a thing that a lot of people were really concerned about. But just to finish up this video, because I don't want it to turn out too long, I want to talk about Sony's comments on the future of the PlayStation 5. And so in line with recent history, Sony wants the PlayStation 5 to be on the market for at least 7 years before it introduces its next console. At least that's what SIE CEO Jim Ryan suggested during an interview with GQ Magazine UK. Ryan didn't imply that this was set in stone, but said that Sony is really positive about the PS5's future over the next 5, 6, 7 years. After that, who knows, he continued. I think the cloud will probably become more important over the course of the next few years, even though there are still business models and technology challenges. As that happens, we're continuing our studies and our investment and looking at this very carefully. And it is interesting to hear that it seems like they expect the console to be around for 5, 6, or 7 years. I think if they're leaning more towards the 5-year mark, that's a little bit shorter than people would anticipate. The 7-year mark, however, I think that makes a lot of sense. So that's going to do it for the video, guys. Leave me your thoughts down in the comments below. Again, leave the video a like if you enjoyed it or found it informative. Subscribe if you're new. Hit the bell notification icon, and feel free to share the video out on top of all that. But until next time, guys, take care.